everybody. My name is Robert Diaz, co-founder of Social Endurance, and I'm super excited to have Lindsay Codwise, Foundation Program Manager over at Berkshire Bank. Did I get that right?
You did, yes. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Super excited about this interview with you and really just learning more about what you're doing over at Berkshire Bank. I had a chance to, do a little bit of research and just found all kinds of awesome things that you guys are doing in the community. And it really, again, the whole focus of this interview is to share with nonprofits, share with event companies, corporate social responsibility executives, share a little bit of insight about what a fantastic company is doing in the community so we can kind of help each other better engage, better support, each other to give back through nonprofits and in really cool events, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, as I was doing a little bit of research on Berkshire Bank, it's pretty impressive. It's just article after article online about some of the fantastic work that you've been doing in the community. And one of the things that I came across was this award that you received. You received a leadership award, the Communitas Award, Leadership in Community Service and Corporate Social Responsibility, which I thought was awesome. So you're obviously doing something right. So can you tell us a little bit about Berkshire Bank and your role?
Absolutely. First of all, Robert, I want to thank you for having me on. I'm really excited to be here and to kind of, talk obviously about the bank and what I do, and just, have some fun and share that excitement. So, So Berkshire Bank, we are a regional bank located in the Northeast. We're actually in 7 different states. So we're in Massachusetts, New York, Connecticut, Vermont, Rhode Island. I know I'm missing at least a couple. It's so hard to
Testing you.
Yeah. We may have to edit that. We are in 7 states in the Northeast, and we actually have a small presence in Pennsylvania as well. So we actually, 44 Business Capital is one of our subsidiaries, and they're located in Blue Bell, Pennsylvania, and we do have a couple branches in Pennsylvania as well. So so we cover a pretty good geographic territory. But at the same time, we consider ourselves very much a community bank. And I think you can see that, based on a lot of the local efforts that we're doing in each of our markets, around things like philanthropy, volunteerism, and just all sorts of different engagement opportunities. So, our main goal as a 21st century community bank is to help everyone realize life's exciting moments and make sure that everybody is banked fairly. We pride ourselves on being all inclusive. We pride ourselves on our Be First values, which, just in case anyone doesn't know, are belonging, focusing, inclusion, respect, service, and teamwork. And we carry that through, from our employees to our customers to our communities. It's just really all encompassing. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So one of the things that I did notice, and you touched on this when I did my research, was that it seems like the word community really pops up a lot on all this information that I find, regarding Berkshire Bank. So it looks like you're really engaged in the community. All of your, local banks throughout these regions are working hard to give back. As you know, we work with charities, we work with a lot of charities to help develop those corporate partnerships and vice versa. And just because of all the exposure that you've had, Berkshire Bank, in giving back and all these awards that you've received, how do you select these charity partners? I'm sure you have a lot of charities that reach out to you, every week, right? They're reaching out to you to try to partner with you or, whatever it is. But how do you go about selecting the right charity to partner with?
That's a great question. I think we definitely, the foundation itself really tries to connect as much to the bank's overall goal of reducing the wealth gap and making sure that everyone is financially stable. So, in the foundation, philanthropically, we have a few sort of priority areas. So we focus on things like skills training, job development, affordable housing, small business and entrepreneurship, and then, conversations and initiatives around closing the wealth gap. Because, honestly, at the end of the day, if you're not, getting the skills that you need to get a good job, to then buy a house, or, make your business succeed and grow it, it all ties together into that whole financial, health and wellness sort of, package. And, we really try to line up our giving along those lines. So, we support a lot of organizations that support those efforts.
Right. So it's really value driven, right? So you get a lot of charities reaching out to you, and you're looking for the best matches according to your mission, your values. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. And it is very hard because, like you said, we get so many requests, and there are so many organizations throughout our footprint doing great work. Like I said, we cover a pretty broad range geographically.
Right.
So it's difficult because, obviously if we had unlimited funding, we would fund everything, but, we don't. So I think one of the key parts that we look for are those more 360 sort of relationships where, we're not necessarily just writing a check, but we're also, volunteering with the organization, or, we have an employee, who then joins that board, and, things like that, and really try to create almost like a symbiotic, like mutually beneficial partnership. So.
Yeah. So I really love that, what you just said, and it really complements some of the efforts that we're doing with nonprofits. So what we're really encouraging nonprofits is to develop those partnerships, develop the value for those partnerships, and less about just asking for a donation, right? So what you were touching on is, volunteer opportunities, engaging, on their board, right? It could be, fundraising campaigns, all these different things. So I think that's really critical for charities to understand, is being able to offer that in I guess it highlights their organization a little bit more to provide for a better partnership with an organization like Berkshire Bank.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So after doing a little research, and you mentioned this earlier, Berkshire Bank has about 132 branches, right around there, I'm thinking, through New England and Mid-Atlantic region. So you're really spread out a little bit there. How do you support the community engagement efforts of each branch of each region? How do you work with those regions to support their wants, their needs in the community, right? And the needs of that community. So how do you support your branches in all these regions?
Yeah, and that's a great question, because sitting here, I'm in Berkshire County, Mass, obviously, so I sort of know a lot of the local needs and stuff, as far as philanthropy and, volunteering and things like that here. But, I don't know what's necessarily going on in central New York and what the needs are, or down in New Jersey. So we actually both on the foundation, like the philanthropic side and the sort of employee engagement volunteer side, we have these different committees, and they're made up of the lines of business leaders and other employees, especially in the volunteer side, employees that are really passionate about volunteering and giving back. And they really serve as our boots on the ground. They really direct us in a lot of ways and guide us as to, hey, this is a really big need in our market, whether it's by giving a grant or by going out and, volunteering, or in COVID times, maybe, finding different ways to not go out and help them.
Right.
But yeah, we really rely heavily, and especially in my role. So I manage, I help oversee our X-Team corporate volunteer program. So I have, what we call our volunteer, which are now evolving into culture councils, in each of our markets. And I really turn to them to really execute on a lot of this. And, we couldn't do our work in the foundation without all of these other groups of individuals, as well as all of our employees as a whole. So.
Yeah. So these, these culture councils are these, I guess, regional leaders Is that what they are? Is it usually an individual in that region, or is it these councils in that region that really drive that need for that community, and they just coordinate that with you?
Absolutely. Yep. I mean, I have occasions where, a nonprofit will reach out directly to us. And then I will sort of, defer to those councils. Because like I said, I don't know, I don't necessarily know what's best for those markets. And yes, and these are employees, that are passionate about, giving back and, this is my job. This is what I do full time, but they have jobs on top of that. And,
Right.
made up of everyone from, tellers in our retail, to some of the back office, my bankers, so it really runs the gamut. But I think, like I said, the bottom line is their drive and their willingness to really be our boots on the ground, if you will, and their passion. So.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I agree with you. Those people in those communities are going to know the needs of the community more than, a central office, right? But it's fantastic, the support structure that you have there to support each region and each branch. Along those lines, when you're partnering up with these charities, and we're talking about partnerships, before the pandemic, were you partnering or had you partnered with a specific charity year round for their mission that's not related to, a single event? Mm-hmm. So did you have these year-long partnerships with specific charities, or was it really more kind of pick and choose throughout the year?
I think it's a combination. Like I said, we do try to, find those partnerships that fit within, our priorities, like I said, around, things that help get individuals to be financially healthy and live successful lives. But we definitely, there are also other organizations too that we have partnered with, that don't necessarily fit those priorities, but are really important in those communities for various reasons. So it's always been a little bit of a combination of both and finding that balance. And then COVID hit. So
yeah, right.
So,
Yeah. Then COVID hit, right? Then everything, we have to pivot, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, regarding these partnerships and, supporting your employees and, giving back into the community, can you share with us, your support for your employees through volunteering time off and corporate matching, or are you doing any of that for your employees?
Yeah, I'm really happy to say that we do all of that. So each and every employee at Berkshire Bank, whether you're part-time, full-time, from the top down, everyone receives 16 hours of paid time off to volunteer during company work hours each year. So, it's as simple as, if like say we're doing a habitat build, you just have to go to your manager, and ask them if you could take that, that half day or, however many hours to go out and volunteer, and you receive that paid time off to go do that. So which has been really incredible, and I'm really happy to say that we've actually achieved 100% employee participation in our corporate volunteer program for 4 years, which is really incredible, and a great number. But, I think even beyond that is the impact that we've had. I know that the last 2 years in a row, we have actually impacted over 1 million lives just through volunteer efforts, excluding, philanthropy and things like that. And, on top of that, we do have a corporate matching program. So the foundation provides every single employee, once again, part-time, full-time, does not matter, with $500 in matching every year. So, say you want to make a $500 donation to, your favorite nonprofit, we'll match that $500. Or if you want to give, a few, like 25, 50, however many, donations to different nonprofits, we'll still match all of those up to that $500 cap per year.
Wow, that's awesome. That is really, really impressive. So one thing that did catch my attention is you mentioned something about 100% employee participation. Mm-hmm. Okay. I'd love to learn a little bit more about that because, I've shared with you is I do have some, I do have a background in helping, company engage in the community, and, to get that kind of engagement is very, very impressive. Can you share a tiny bit more about 100% employee participation?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, first and foremost, it speaks to who we are as a company. From the time that we begin the hiring process, we try to make sure that, we're finding individuals who are a good fit, who care about the communities the same way that we do. And, are willing to take time and give back. And, whether it's company time or sometimes it's on their own time, which is, that's great too. And we do, under normal circumstances, we have what we call our Extraordinary Day. That started back in 2016. And we actually shut down the entire company, every branch, every back office in every state, beginning at noon for an afternoon in June. And we would actually all go out and volunteer, which I think was a really big driving force behind that as well, because it's especially in the retail world, it's really hard to get away sometimes. You have to deal with customers and staffing issues and things like that. So we really wanted to provide an opportunity and make sure, that yes, everyone got to utilize, that time to actually go out and, not only do something great in their communities, but, socialize with their colleagues in a different aspect and, meet people that they hadn't met before. We're a larger company. So, I, even to this day, like I'll suddenly meet somebody who I've been emailing with for, 4 years, and I finally see their face and it's like, oh, wow, like, it's so great to meet you. So, it's so beneficial on so many ends. And, obviously with COVID, we were not able to hold this classic day this year. But, it is sort of something that we've become known for and that our employees really look forward to and really, really enjoy doing. So I think that really helps drive a lot of that participation. As well as
that's super impressive. So the 100% participation in that event, what is it called again?
It's called our Extraordinary Day.
Extraordinary Day. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic, especially for a financial institution like Berkshire Bank, to be able to say, we are going to shut down our offices to give back to the community. You have to have so much buy-in, because you're going to have those people that are going to say, well, it's going to cost us a lot of money and all these things. But obviously, it is a very, very high priority for Berkshire Bank to give back to the community in order to do something like that. Just from my experience with corporate social responsibility, and when we're talking about increasing employee engagement, corporations working to increase employee engagement, something like this just speaks volume to that, right? So that is absolutely fantastic, and that's super impressive. So touching on employee engagement through the giving back process, do you ever measure return on engagement or return on investment when engaging with charities, when doing some of that work? Or is that or is that sometimes just a kind of feel good, we're going to do it just because we do it? But are there also times where you do want to measure what that engagement looks like for your employees?
Yeah. So on the volunteer side, we definitely do measure that. There is a basic algorithm that you can use to sort of calculate, the time that you've donated, what that turns into like dollar wise. And we definitely also, we actually a couple of years ago started tracking the impact. Because we had this goal. We were at our 10-year anniversary of the X team. And we said, hey, you know what? We want to make sure that we can impact 1 million lives, like through our volunteer efforts. So that was our goal for the year. So we actually started out, just sending out surveys to our nonprofit partners, after an event, not only to gauge the quality and work on, see what we could be doing better or, improve the experience on both ends, but also, to find out, how many individuals that project was able to assist. So yeah, we do track that to some extent, especially on the volunteer piece.
Yeah. So I love that. Not only are you tracking that on the volunteer piece, you're measuring that, but also, also just as important is you have that very specific goal of how many lives you really want to impact in these communities, which I think is absolutely fantastic. I don't know a whole lot of companies that have a very, very specific goal that's, like that, where they want to impact a million lives in the community.
Yeah.
So,
and another,
very
oh, I'm sorry. No, I was just going to say, yeah. And another, another thing that we actually started last year was, especially as we sort of evolved into really realizing, as we identified, and defined what we considered to be the 21st century community bank. And like I said, the fact that like our ultimate goal is to reduce the wealth gap and get people to that next level financially. We made an effort to really hone in on financial education, as not only being a volunteer opportunity, but obviously a tangible step toward reaching that ultimate goal. Teaching people how to, use a checkbook, how to create, how to open a bank account, what your credit score really means. All of that is so important. And unfortunately, none of it's taught in schools, when we're growing up. I mean, I know I came into the world of being an adult and I'm like, trying to come up with a budget and things. It's intimidating. So, I know last year we actually, we had a total of, I want to say almost 100 of our 300 volunteer projects were specifically around financial education. And that was we went to about 29% of our projects being that, whereas I think in prior years it was around like 16%. So, tracking that piece as well and really making sure that, we're not just talking the talk, but we're walking the walk, especially around things like the wealth gap.
Right.
So
now, do you mind just sharing an example of one of the nonprofits that you partnered with, last year or this year, where it was that really fit into kind of your mission, where you were reaching out to and connecting with a nonprofit? Do you mind just mentioning one of the nonprofits that you connected with?
Yeah, not at all. So we've actually really built a great partnership with the Dimmick Center in Boston. So our corporate headquarters started out in Berkshire County and moved to Boston a couple years ago. And they've just been a great partner. And actually, we had one of our My Bankers, which, in case anyone doesn't know about My Bankers, basically they're bankers for anybody. You don't have to have, a certain amount of money for them to basically be your personal, financial assistant. And that's, I think, another program that sets us apart. And you can definitely learn more about that on our website. But we actually partnered with the Dimmick Center, and one of our My Bankers taught a 4-week series, of around financial education. And we really tailored it to the needs of their clients. These are a lot of individuals who are preparing to go back into the workforce and back, into finding their own housing and things like that. So we wanted to make sure that they felt prepared to take those next steps. And, the Dimmick Center it's an amazing organization. We've done so much with them. Obviously, like I said, that is like one of the main partnerships that comes to mind around philanthropy and furthering our mission. But, like I said, that 360 engagement. So
that's fantastic. Sounds like a great organization. So one of the things that we do need to talk about is the current pandemic, right? COVID-19 here. One of the things that this pandemic has really forced, everybody to do is pivot, right? We need to pivot a little bit, especially organizations like yours with, Berkshire Bank, when you're working so hard to engage with the community, volunteering, engage with events and, participate in the community to give back. It's really forced us to change strategy and really change the way that we give, right? So with all that, during COVID, has Berkshire Bank continued to give back to the community? And can you give us, and if so, can you share with us some examples of how you've given back?
Absolutely. And I love that you use the term pivot, because I was literally in a meeting this morning and someone had said, they were like, I think the defining term around COVID as far as organization goes is that word pivot. Like we've all had to do that. So the foundation, philanthropically, we have a $3 million budget that we give out every year, distributed amongst our markets. And this year we actually committed an additional $1 million on top of that to COVID specific efforts in all of our communities. So we, and then there were some grants that, had originally been, meant sort of a specific program, that we, said, hey, they came to us and they were like, is there any way that we can just, use these funds for, whatever we need to right now? And of course the answer is absolutely yes. We actually held a virtual collection effort, because like you said, suddenly we can't really be out in the communities volunteering way that we're so used to. So we actually partnered with an organization called You Give Goods, and they're fantastic. And we, selected a couple nonprofits in each of our major markets, and just collected items. Employees, bought these items online on the website, and then it's actually a 100% tax deductible donation. And then all of the items that these organizations needed are shipped directly to them. So it was a really great way. I think we raised almost 10,000 items for different nonprofits throughout our markets. And especially on my side, because suddenly, like I said, we're not out, volunteering in our traditional sense. So it was a great way to engage our employees and help them feel like they were making an impact and giving back, all while not having to, physically be out there exposing themselves. And, it's something they're able to do from home. And yeah, and we've done a few different collection efforts for some nonprofits, and obviously trying to find some virtual opportunities for volunteering and things like that. And it's funny because I remember when COVID first hit, and I was like, oh boy, now what? Because we've always had some remote opportunities. We always make sure that because we've always had some employees who are, just are not in the office or located elsewhere. So we've always had some ways to engage them. But I think it was like, okay, wow, this was the moment, and it's the direction I've been wanting to go in for so long, but it really forced that issue. And it's like, okay, we really need to start having, even beyond COVID, hosting, a healthy mix of those, in-person opportunities where you get to hang out with your colleagues and do something impactful, but also offering, ways to give back and volunteer without having to leave your home. So I think that's one lesson I learned. And I remember being on, especially in the first weeks of COVID, I was on webinar after webinar, and I was so, because I was so nervous because, I felt bad even trying to reach out to nonprofits to be like, hey, what can we do for you virtually when they're just trying to keep their doors open? And then what I found was that every other corporation seemed to have the same dilemma, which I think made me feel a lot better, because, we all are sitting here, ready and wanting to give back, but how do we do that in this environment? So,
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, going back to pivot, we're all pivoting, right? And, you're pivoting and trying to figure out, how do we continue to give back? How do we continue to support these, nonprofits, support our communities, and do it with the safety in mind of our employees and everyone, right? But that's fantastic. So you've been able to raise a lot of goods, and obviously you've spent a significant amount of your budget, I'm guessing, in the first part of the year. Is that correct? I mean, have you guys a significant amount back already this 2020?
Yeah, no, and we're really lucky that that the foundation board was obviously completely behind us allocating $1 million from our government to these efforts. So that way it's not like it's being taken away from our normal giving budget, but just in addition to. So yeah,
I love that, just because we've been sharing with a lot of nonprofits and event companies that there are companies out there, for-profit companies, that have stepped up their giving, right? So it's really nice to see that even in the current market, in the economic market, it's just to see fantastic companies that are demonstrating their leadership in these industries by stepping up giving. So that's awesome. So one of the things I did want to check on is, and you mentioned, was virtual events. So obviously due to the pandemic, a lot of events have gone virtual, right? And have you and your coworkers engaged in, virtual events? And if so, what kind, were they, these virtual events? Did you engage in any, have you? And what was the employee engagement like for those?
Yeah. So, as I mentioned, our traditional extraordinary day is held in June every year. It could not happen just given everything going on. So, we took a step back, and we knew that, especially right now, with just, everything going on, like, we needed that for the, not only for our communities, but for the employees as well. They needed something to look forward to. And like I said, it's such an important day for them. So we kind of, once again pivoted and said, how can we do something that's like Extraordinary Day, but obviously isn't. We had to remain open. Those branches that were still in operation were fully operating, and employees working from home still had to work that day. So what could we do that was virtual, an easy lift, and really met employees where they were at. So we actually came up with, and this, was based on our Be First value. We called it Be First Day because it is a little bit different than Extraordinary Day. But, I was able to find some really cool projects. We partnered with Career Village, which is an organization that provides, it's almost like a streaming feed of students from all over, ask questions, things that, they may not, especially if they don't have mentors in their lives or in situations, or maybe they're a first-time college student. So it's not something they can go to their friends and family for advice. So they can post whatever questions they have around careers and, what it's like to go to school and a variety of other topics. And our employees just log on and answer those for them. So that was a really, and it took us, you could do it in 10 minutes if you wanted to. I had some employees who were doing it all day. It was fantastic. They just kept answering question after question. But yeah, that was one great way. We actually partnered with Happy Hope Factory, who had created this Hope Reads program, which is awesome. It's basically a virtual library. Obviously they do a lot with children in hospitals, in our market and in other markets as well. And, they couldn't, do these traditional bags and stuff they would give out because they couldn't bring that into the hospital. They knew the hospital playrooms were closed. A lot of children were there and their parents couldn't even come visit them. So they created a virtual library where we actually had our employees read children's books from home. I did it. You just sit in front of your video, you take a video of yourself reading a book to a child, and then you upload it to their library, and then these children have access to that library. So they're being virtually read to by other people, and it was really, really incredible. And we had some great stories. Some people got dressed up in costume and went all out. It was fantastic. And then, we also realized that, we always have that balance of, we have those people that would prefer to do something, completely online or, on video. And then we have, employees that really love to do something a little more tangible. So I found this organization, actually, they're based in California, but they deal with foster children throughout the nation, working with them, especially as they're in transition and things. So they have these things called superhero boxes. So we actually were able to partner with them, and they ship superhero boxes out to our branches, to, employees working from home who wanted to, participate in that. And it's basically, like a box with a pillowcase and a cape and a mask, and you just color them in and you decorate them. And then it came with the packaging just to send it right back to them directly. And that was another really popular one. Branches got together and, we're decorating them collectively. And like I said, none of these took more than probably an hour tops. So, we had to obviously be respectful that, like I said, people have workloads, and, especially at that point, PPP was in the middle. So that was coordinated. But we wanted, to still be able to provide employees a little bit of a break and an opportunity to, take a step away from, everything that's been going on and all of the heavy emotions and the stress and everything, and have some fun, and feel like they were giving back and doing something impactful, regardless.
I think that's incredibly powerful, just to be able, we were talking about, some of the employees to get an opportunity to read a book, you video it, read a book, put it into the library so kids at a hospital can listen to it, watch it, because they don't have anybody to read to them. I mean, as an employee, just as a human, I think would be just amazing just to be able to do that, to give back. So, I think that from a corporation standpoint, when you have these employees, and do they feel good about working for the organization? Do they believe that the organization really cares about the community and the employees? I think it just demonstrates that, without a doubt, Berkshire Bank definitely does. So I love that.
Yeah,
Thank
and I hope
thank you for sharing that.
yeah, no problem. And other thing that we had actually started these last year, but they've actually really taken off over the last few months and during COVID is employee resource groups. So we basically, created these groups that, and they're nothing more than, I don't want to say nothing more, they're really important, but it's as simple as, if you're interested in a topic, we have a variety of them. You can join this group, and then, it's just a great place to come together and, brainstorm over either ideas or, things that you want the company to be doing on your behalf, or, just like a safe space almost. So we have a pride group, we have a power of women group, a people of color group, abilities in motion. We have a wide variety of a health and wellness group is our newest ERG.
Right.
And that's been a fantastic way for employees to feel connected to each other, and to feel like that, they're taking their passions and things that they care about personally and having that opportunity to put them in front of the bank. We actually have an official diversity and inclusion committee that reports to the board. So the board gets to, hear about a lot of this work and, things that they're interested in. And it's, in some cases, it's things that the company can then maybe, take on or make, changes to help improve that engagement. And that's been really fantastic too. So I'm a part of several of our ERGs. We have an ally ERG too. And they just, some of the conversations that we have had and stuff, it's been really eye-opening. And I think the most important, like I said, it's a safe space for employees to feel comfortable, sharing their stories and, really like sharing their passions with each other. So,
I love that, just because, especially right now, and just, as we're going through some of this right now and some of the social, justice challenges that, the country's going through, is being able to get into groups like that and kind of, share, express as however you identify. But I think that really goes to the whole employee engagement part of it, right? That just speaks volumes. So to have an organization that cares so much about employees, that provides those, those ways to engage. So love that. Thank you for that.
yeah.
So when engaging with charities and when engaging in community wellness events, one of the things that always comes up is going to be sponsorships, right? Nonprofits. One of the ways that corporations can engage with nonprofits or community wellness events is sponsorship. So, is that something that Berkshire Bank does? I mean, do you currently engage in, sponsoring, charities or, community health and wellness events? And, can you just share a little bit about that with us? Because we do, a lot of our charity partners, that's part of their revenue generation, right? Is providing the ability for corporations to engage in their events or engage through their organization through sponsorships. So can you share with us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so sponsorships are a little bit different. Technically, sponsorships are handled not through the foundation, but through our marketing department.
Right.
But there are definitely sponsorships that then they turn into grants, and we end up giving philanthropically to those. But yeah, so we definitely, we do sponsor a number of events. Usually, when we're sponsoring events, we like to see, once again, sort of that 360 engagement. Like, I look at it from the volunteer side. Like, I'm happy to sponsor, a walk or a run if we're going to have a team, if it's something that our employees want to be out there doing, or virtually, as I know a lot of these things have gone to. And yeah, we definitely, and I think we're trying more and more to line up even our sponsorships, once again, with our sort of our bank values, and get a little bit more strategic in that respect. And I will say too, one great thing about the employee resource groups is they actually each have a budget of their own. So if there's something that they want to sponsor as an ERG, they have that ability. So, I know that we sponsored multiple Pride events back in June, or, I don't want to say they may have been virtual, but, initiatives and things like that.
Right.
So that really gives, I think, a sense of agency for employees, and once again really speaks to making sure that we're living up to our promise to a belonging and inclusion. Like, belonging is so important to us. We want every employee to know that we value them and that they have a place here at Berkshire Bank, and that actually extends to our customers as well. We want to bank everybody. We don't care what's in your wallet. We don't,
Sure.
we are here for you. We were actually one of the only banks during PPP that we took PPP loans from individuals who weren't customers of ours. Most banks, they required you to be a customer to apply for that PPP loan. And we did not do that because we just realized, these businesses really need this money right now.
Sure.
And they don't know, they don't know how to navigate it. And I mean, I surely don't, but that's where our experts come in. So, I would say belonging and inclusion are two of our, biggest, I think, values here at the bank, both on the employee side and the public facing customer side.
Yeah. So you mentioned, 360 engagement, and I've heard that a couple times in this conversation, and I absolutely love that because it just really gets to it really just highlights partnership, right? So it's being able to really engage with the nonprofit, and the nonprofit or the community, wellness event has to be able to provide several different ways to engage with an organization like yours instead of making it very transactional, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
it's developing that closer, partnership to really bring more meaning, more impact into the community. So and you were touching on sponsorship. It really goes more towards the marketing side of your organization, but I'm guessing that you work very, very closely with marketing to really develop those, partnerships through sponsors.
Yeah, and activate them, as much as we can.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And how do you decide, which events, to sponsor, which organizations to sponsor? Does it go back again to, what your mission and values is, or are there certain times where you just see a great community event and you say it would be good to support this event that's really critical in this community or has given back to this community for so many years, and you just want to do good by supporting that event?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's an exact combination of that. Like I said, we definitely want to try to drive our company mission forward wherever we can. But yeah, sometimes you do, like I've come across, and I've started great partnerships with some nonprofits because I happened to stumble across, like a volunteer project that they had, or, it may have been a sponsorship event in some cases. And yeah, like you said, it was just, it was a really the right thing to do, or a really great opportunity.
Right.
And a lot of times those build into so much more. I mean, I can't tell you the number of nonprofit partners that I now work with on a regular basis who, like I said, either they stumbled across us or I stumbled across them. And then the more that we work together, we just found this synergy and this ongoing sort of, and now, we have those organizations that, we, like I said, we provide grants to, we, are constantly out volunteering with, and they're then connecting us with their, other nonprofit partners and sort of expanding that realm too. So.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic. So so charities, how are charities picked every year? And really, when do you start to, plan that? For 2021, when do you really start to plan that? And then how do you select them? And do you select it for the majority of the year, or do you leave some area there for adding on, and I guess now through COVID, you have to be a little bit flexible. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, do you typically plan this, in the fall and your budget and all that? And do you start selecting those nonprofits in the fall, and how do you select them? So.
Yeah, so the foundation director, will propose the budget to the foundation for the following year to the foundation board. Yeah, usually in the fall, I believe November, it's approved. And then, It really varies. We have some key partners that we know we're, going to receive a grant application from, and, for a variety of reasons, we know it's a partnership we're going to continue. We definitely, obviously get new applications all the time too. And that's, I think, when we try to go back to those main priorities of, like workforce development, small business, affordable housing, getting individuals to where they need to be successful. And we, once again, rely heavily on our committees on the foundation side to help us make those decisions, because obviously, like I said, if money was not an issue, we'd fund everything. But
Right.
so unfortunately, we do have to be, somewhat selective, but we really, it's very collaborative, even internally, on how those decisions are made. So.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to wrap up here a little bit, but one question that I always ask is why? Why do you give back? Why is Berkshire Bank, so passionate about giving back and supporting the communities?
I mean, it sounds sort of cliche, but it's the right thing to do. We are in these communities. We are, a bank. We are, holding on to your money. We are, trying, like, we're a business, and it's our responsibility to make sure that, that the individuals in our communities, can have the opportunity to bank, and have, assets that they can, then give back. Not just to us, but in general, like to be financially healthy. I mean, we, as a bank, we wouldn't exist if we didn't have people that could put their money into deposit accounts or, build different, portfolios and things with us. So, and I think the key part is, making sure that populations that have been traditionally marginalized by the banking industry are no longer, and that we are there to serve them, even if no one else will. So, and then, like I said, it all kind of ties back into, giving our time and our money to help them move forward and get to where they need to be.
Love that. Last question. So if you were just to give a little bit of insight of to charities and, wellness events in the community on how they can better prepare to, partner with you, just a couple little things where it would kind of separate them from all these other, charities and all these other event companies that are reaching out to you on a weekly basis. How do some of these organizations kind of separate themselves from all the others just to kind of really, highlight their organization?
Great question. I will say on my end, and not being the foundation director and a little bit less connected to the philanthropy itself, I will say that a great introduction is that volunteer piece. I've built so many connections with nonprofits that we have then gone to build the financial connection to and the philanthropic connection. Just because, they came to us and said, hey, we could really use, these volunteers for this project. And if it worked for that market, it's a no brainer. It's like, okay, great, let's help you out. And then, especially, I think the employee experience and, especially on the volunteer side, getting your story across. I think that you were talking about, transactional versus transformational. I'm not sure if you know Chris Jarvis of Realize Worth, but he does an incredible talk on this. And that's for us, I think that, when our employees are volunteering, even if it's painting a wall, like, okay, great, you go and paint a wall, but what does that wall mean to, the students in that school who, have been staring at the same faded wall every day, and, they come in and it looks fresh and new, and it's like, wow, someone cared enough to, to update this for us, and really getting that bigger story across, and the impact too.
Yeah. That's fantastic. Lindsay, thank you so much. And, big thank you to Berkshire Bank for all the fantastic work that you're doing in the community. You're doing incredible work. As you know, Social Endurance, we share, these interviews and share information, constantly to try to support the nonprofits, these wellness, events in the community and corporate social responsibility to really partner up to do some fantastic, things in the community. So Thank you so much. Appreciate it. And, continue to do that awesome work that you're doing already.
Well, thank you, Robert. And as I was saying earlier, like it's so much collaboration. I've learned so much, from what other companies are doing or other nonprofits and things like that. So I'm just glad that Berkshire Bank is able to, to kind of share what we do, and hopefully it will, inspire others. And hope, like I said, I know I've learned so much from so many other organizations. So I'm happy to try to provide a little bit of the same guidance if you can. So, so thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day.